Hi, everybody, and welcome to the CDO magazine interview series. Today, I'm here with Ted Kaouk, and Ted is the Deputy Director of Human Capital Data Management and Modernization and the Chief Data Officer at the Office of Personnel Management. Welcome, Ted.
Hi, Denise. It's nice to be with you today.
One of the things that struck me while I was reading about that, your time in USDA and that human-centered approach, and then also obviously the work that we were just talking about in the COVID-19 working group, is how collaborative the world of data needs to be in order for it to be successful and do the things that we want it to do. And so this idea of bringing these whichever appropriate groups to the table to have these conversations it just struck me as so different than many of the other areas of government or IT or so many different types of jobs that we can do, which can be done, either individually or in a small group. This seems to be much more, it needs to be much more collaborative. Would you agree with that?
I think 100%. I mean, I think in a lot of endeavors, collaboration is really critical. It does seem to be both one of the bigger opportunities if you do it well, and one of the bigger challenges, I think, for implementing a data strategy. So I think, one, the fact that we have a federal data strategy with a common set of principles and a vision helps. Having positions like chief data officers in agencies across government helps, because we are all kind of moving toward a common vision, and we're establishing best practices and having the CDO Council where we can really bring those best practices together and look at where the bright spots are for each of our areas, whether that's data inventory or analytics or data management or data skills, improving data skills at our agencies, and really try to accelerate that at that level, I think is really important. And then of course and we have 90, I think, chief data officers or something very close to that now at this point at agencies across government, which is pretty exciting.
That's very exciting. Very cool.
And then at the agency level, right, this idea of a team sport, bringing together programmary subject matter experts, bringing in talent, new data scientist talent into the federal government is being a big priority for us. Upskilling employees and just creating that team sport that is data has really been, I think, a central part of where we've seen the opportunity and where it's been done well. You've seen the value delivered at those agencies.
Yeah, that is very true. I could not agree with that statement more. I like how you framed that team sport. I think that's perfect. So we were talking about COVID earlier, and it highlighted the need for data sharing and the benefits of doing so, like you explained to us. I'm just curious what you think is the biggest area of opportunity and how we use data in the future. And you kind of started to go there about, we have a foundation for, the next big thing, but where do you think we're going with this use of data in the future based on, the recent examples of how you've been able to share data in the federal government space?
Well, I would go back to the COVID example just briefly. I mean, it definitely highlighted some of our challenges with sharing decision support across agency, especially where there's a common or an urgent need. I mean, I think based on the CDO role and what's happening at agencies, there's been a real increase in the prioritization of analysis and collection of data to ensure it's timely, it's reliable, it's actionable. At the same time, agencies are frequently developing these solutions in parallel. So in some cases where we may be duplicating efforts, we might be solving the same problems that other agencies have solved many times over. At USDA, we developed human capital dashboards for 19 agencies that eliminated a lot of duplicative work and also created a single source of truth. So standing up these decision support tools can be really costly. And COVID-19, I think, was another example of where a crisis and a priority we need to have the infrastructure to support that. So one of the things we did in the CDO Council following up from COVID was we actually looked at a proof of concept dashboard for how multiple agencies could visualize their HR data in a standardized dashboard. And this is before my time at OPM, to inform best practices on advancing federal data analytics. And as a result of that, we created a number of dashboards, including a diversity profile dashboard. And now at OPM, we're really working hard on implementing some of those recommendations, because we think the ability of our agency and for government to be able to solve some of these common solutions together will create a lot of economies of scale, will create better insights in the data, and will be able to help us to leverage that data more fully and more effectively.
Yeah.
So I think that's one opportunity. we've discovered that kind of directly
Big
relates
one.
to that first experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. I love that answer. So when you opened, you shared with us just, I think, a glimpse. I don't know that my mind can fully comprehend how much data you are having at your disposal there, but there's a lot. It's vast amounts of data. And so I'm just wondering if you think, or if you know, or how you measure the value of our data. Like, how can we measure the value of data and use what's really important and ignore what's not important, and, bring it together in a meaningful way?
Well, I mean, one way that we measure the value, or we know what's important, is that we ask people. We actually get them in that space where they can really help us to understand what's important to them. I think broadly, though, the value of government data and how we evaluate its value is something we're trying to get our arms around, I think, as a government, as a CDO council. So one of our responsibilities with the CDO council is to engage the public on how we can improve our practices. This past October, we had a public meeting. We issued a request for information, and we really asked the public about approaches for valuing government data. We heard a number of things. They encouraged the federal government to consider different approaches to data valuation, and so I think there's a couple of different models that are relevant. A market-based model. What's the data's utility in terms of cost and revenue and profit? Economic models, which would look at utility in terms of economic and public benefit, and then specific contextual and dimensional models, which are kind of taking those first models and estimating utility based on certain categories or dimensions that may be data specific or contextual. So a couple of examples would be, how do we measure the value of weather data? It's both in terms of lives saved, as well as the economic impact of that data on things like farming, tourism, property. And so sometimes the value of the data is measured in combination with other information. So the weather data might be combined with water quality data to provide additional value to our communities as they're working to maintain safe drinking water for their residents. So I think, we need to be careful not to assume that the value of data is equal to the value of the benefits it creates. Is all the water quality data that's produced by states, by the U.S. Geological Survey and EPA, equal to all the clean drinking water? No, but the data is a contributor, and there's a relationship. And so I think we're able to sort of better understand the value of data by asking these types of questions, and that's something that we're going to continue to think about. There's a lot we could say, I think, overall.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes how, I mean, I feel like it's probably going to be an ongoing conversation, that there's not an actual answer to it or a framework that you can put down, that it's going to be sort of iterating itself over and over as we learn more about how we can use our data. But it seems like it's going to be a very big conversation. There's a lot of facets to it. I just want to say thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me. I'm fascinated by the work that you do, and I'm very appreciative of the work that you and the other federal government CDOs are doing on our behalf every day. So thank you very much for that. And again, thank you for sharing with us and spending the time with us today. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, Denise. I had a great time, and anytime, look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no. So again, thank you, Ted, for joining me today. And for all of you out there listening, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews, and have a great day, everybody.